So you're telling me you just walked up to her and asked for her number?
I mean, we'd been talking for like 20 minutes at that point. It wasn't out of nowhere.
Still, I would have needed at least 3 more interactions before I even considered that. Maybe a planned coincidence at the same coffee shop.
A planned coincidence? Kayla, that's called stalking.
It's called strategy. But okay, fair enough. Maybe your way is more efficient.
And that is exactly what we're talking about today. I'm Marcus.
And I'm Kayla. Welcome to Almost Fluent.
Today, we're getting into dating and relationships in American English, how people ask each other out, what the language actually sounds like when you're interested in someone, and some of the phrases that might completely confuse you if you're not from here.
I think the first thing that throws people off is how casual Americans can be about this whole thing. In some cultures, expressing romantic interest is very formal or very indirect. Here, it can be surprisingly straightforward.
It can be, but there's also a lot of language that sounds casual but is doing a lot of work. Like if someone says, "We should hang out sometime," that might mean nothing, or it might mean they're interested. Context is everything.
How is anyone supposed to know the difference?
Honestly, sometimes you don't. But there are signals. If someone says, "We should hang out," and then immediately follows it with, "Are you free this weekend?" that's real interest. They're pinning it down. If they just say it and move on, it might just be politeness.
So the follow-up is what matters, not the initial statement.
Exactly. Americans say a lot of things that sound like invitations but are actually just warm noises. "Let's get coffee sometime. We should do this again." If there's no attempt to make it happen, it was probably just a nice thing to say in the moment.
That must be so confusing for people who take words at face value. In some languages, if you say, "let's get coffee," you mean, "let's get coffee."
Here, it can mean that. Or it can mean, "I enjoyed talking to you, and this is how I'm expressing that, but I have no actual intention of scheduling anything." You have to watch for the follow-through.
Okay, so let's say someone does follow through. They ask you out. What does that actually sound like? Because I feel like, "would you like to go on a date with me?" is very formal and probably not what people actually say.
You're right, that's almost too direct for most situations. It's not wrong, but it sounds a little stiff. More commonly, you'd hear something like, "Do you want to grab dinner this week?" Or, "Are you free Saturday? I was thinking we could check out that new place downtown."
So it's framed as an activity, not as a date.
Usually, yeah, especially early on. The word date can feel like a lot of pressure, so people often avoid it. You ask someone to do something specific, get food, see a movie, go to a concert, and the romantic intention is implied but not stated.
What if you're not sure whether it's a date or just two people hanging out as friends?
That's the eternal question. And honestly, sometimes both people aren't sure either. But there are clues. If it's just the two of you, if they suggested a time and place, if they're paying attention to what you're wearing or how the conversation is going, those are signs it might be more than just friendly.
And if you want to make it clear that you are interested romantically, how do you signal that without being too intense?
You can be a little more specific with your language. Instead of "we should hang out," you say, "I'd really like to take you to dinner." The word "take" does something there. It implies intention. Or you compliment them in a way that's slightly more personal. "You have a great sense of humor" is friendly. "I really like talking to you. I feel like I can be myself around you" is a little more intimate.
So it's about raising the temperature slightly without turning it into a declaration.
Exactly. You're giving them a chance to meet you there or step back without anyone losing face.
What happens after the first date, though? Because I know American dating culture has this whole thing where you might be seeing multiple people at once, and that's not considered dishonest?
Right. That's the part that really surprises people from other countries.
In the early stages, before anything is defined, it's pretty common for people to be going on dates with more than one person. It doesn't mean they're not interested in you, it just means nothing has been decided yet.
So when does it become official? Is there a conversation?
There usually is, yeah. Americans call it the talk, or defining the relationship, sometimes just DTR. At some point, if things are going well, someone brings up where this is going. What are we is the classic question. Or, I really like you and I want to know if we're on the same page.
And that's when exclusivity happens?
If both agree, yeah. Before that conversation, you're technically still free agents. After it, you are officially together. It's a little weird because there's no single moment that makes it real. It's whenever you both decide to have that talk.
I think what would stress me out is not knowing when to have it. Is it after 3 dates? 10? A month?
There's no rule. Some people have it after a few weeks, some wait months. The important thing is that you're both comfortable and that you're clear about what you want. If you want to be exclusive and they don't, that's useful information to have sooner rather than later.
So it's less about timing and more about being willing to have an honest conversation.
Always. Dating in any language is really just a series of slightly awkward conversations until you find someone whose awkwardness matches yours.
What about when things don't work out? Because I imagine there's a whole different set of vocabulary for that.
There is, and some of it is very American, like ghosting, when someone just stops responding to your messages and disappears without explanation. It's considered pretty rude, but it happens a lot.
That sounds brutal.
It is. The slightly kinder version is fading out, where the responses get slower and shorter until they just stop. Still avoidant, but at least there's a gradual decline instead of total silence.
Is there a word for when someone keeps you around but never commits?
Breadcrumbing. They give you just enough attention to keep you interested. A text here, a compliment there, but they never actually move things forward. It's like leaving a trail of crumbs so you keep following without ever getting anywhere.
These terms are very vivid and very depressing.
Dating has always been complicated. Now we just have better vocabulary for the ways people disappoint each other. But on the positive side, if you want to end things kindly, the language for that exists too. I've really enjoyed getting to know you, but I don't think we're the right fit. Clear, honest, respectful.
No ghosting required.
No ghosting required. Turns out you can just use your words.
That is our episode on dating and relationships in American English. Thanks for spending this time with us. Whether you're actively dating, happily settled, or just trying to understand what your American friends are talking about, we hope some of this helped.
The biggest thing to remember is that clarity beats cleverness. If you're interested, say so, kindly, but clearly. And if you're confused about where you stand with someone, it's okay to ask. The right person will appreciate the honesty. And remember, the best way to build your English is exactly what you're doing right now, just listening to real conversations. Keep tuning in, and it will come.
She's not wrong. We'll see you in the next episode.
See you next time on Almost Fluent.